Alright guys, it's Sal. Um, just killed the boss, and so now I guess we do a slightly in-depth tank guide. Um, when I first started Prog, I wanted a bit more of an in-depth guide than really was available, so I figured I'd make one for the less progressed, slightly slower guilds that are still struggling and or haven't gotten to the boss yet. So just quick up front, I'll show you guys what I'm running. This is what worked for me. You can run different stuff. It's just situational, what you think is best, right? I'm just some random guy who killed the boss. Anyway, so for Azurite, we start off, I'm running triple training on Azal. I have one elusive footwork, one boiling brew, and one straight no chaser. Ideally, I believe you would want to run the double Heart of Corruption. I just myself don't have the actual corruption to have Heart of Darkness active. I have a few pieces that would put me way over, and my GM didn't want the tanks doing that. So I'm sub 25, so I ran the extra training on Azal pieces. But overall, I think you do want to have a TD3 piece at least, or some variation or some combination of up to Twilight Dev 3. And then I'm also running Avoidance, which is really good for all the basically raid-wide damage that goes out. Besides that, I'm running Edicts with full magic and Psychic Shell. Here we can see really quickly. Edicts did 16.3, Psychic Shell did 17. So let's get into the video, I guess. Okay, so very quickly, just so you can get a sense of where I am positioned and what I am doing. You see these markers. I'm on orange, and the raid is going to be moving back and forth between the sides of the arena, right? You may be placed in a different set. This is how we did it. This is where my positions were at. To give you an idea of this first basher set that we are starting on, here I have here. This is our basic layout of markers. So here we're starting on, I will start on the orange mark, and my off tank will start on the yellow mark. And we assume that Skull is the entrance. So this gives you a point of reference into how a lot of our movement is working if you're trying to look at any sort of background information that's happening within the kill. So we go orange, green to star, since I am part of second Psychus, and then back to orange, I believe, and then we start our rotation again. But just very quickly to give you a point of reference within the video and how we're moving around. We start at orange. Skull is the entrance, the ramp up into N'Zoth's arena. Alright, so here we go from pool. Let me mute it. Alright, so here we go on pool. Nothing special, pre-pot, and we go. Very quickly, right here, when they're spawning, you can, right here, you can tab target onto the mob and attack it as it's coming up. Some people might not do this, might not be aware of this, but this is a thing you can do. It's just like 1 or 2 globals, but you know, when you first start progging, the damage matters. Anyway, on pull here, I like to, as soon as the tentacle's up and starts meleeing, I like to Fort Brew, and then on top of the Fort Brew, I use Psychic Shell. I didn't do it here, or I believe I used my Psychic Shell a bit around here, but I forget to use my Fort Brew. And I just ignore using my Fort Brew because it won't be up later. but that's okay. I just get healed through all of it. So we do this. Tanks no longer get paranoia, so that's good. Very quickly, this is immediately after the first nerfs to N'Zoth. So the paranoia is much easier. Evoke anguishes are much easier. You may struggle on the third evoke anguish, which was a very, very big wall for our guild. But with the nerfs, we were able to get past it, and some slight changes in roster. So here we go. Here. Now immediately on this second set of tentacles, right here, I set my first totem. This is going to be the first totem for the psychophages that spawn as soon as our first group goes down into the psychos phase and starts spawning psychophages. Here we do this basher tentacle. On this basher tentacle, I only get the one sack from my healer, and everything else is just taken to the face. Yeah, so we clear this up. We can skip forward a little bit. Alright, so then the basher spawns here. And then this basher with the bubble, with darkness is here. These melees aren't hitting very hard at all. You should be healthy coming into here. I use Psychic Shell alone right here, and that should be enough to soak the Void Lash because it doesn't last the full lash. Here, I'm assigned to this neuron, clear it up. Mid clearing of this neuron, this totem, the first totem is going to die, so it gets replaced there. It gets replaced up here, and they get it. During this, I heal the Black Ox totem to keep them delayed a bit more for these psychophages, and then boom, third totem. These get stunned. I believe they get taunted by the totem. Yep, there it is. And they're clear from the pool. I immediately taunt them all, or else they'll go everywhere. And then here I get a pain suppress, and I get a link. Unfortunately, the link was placed in a suboptimal position, and I couldn't get in, but that's okay. And then for this Void Lash, I dampen harm. Right, so we clear this up. Just a bunch of psychophages coming up, clearing it up. This is big burn on boss. This is full big burn, big burn, big burn. Here we use 2 necks as soon as all these psychophages are done. Yep, so psychophages are dead. We group up. 2 necks here. Everyone should be good. Group 2 for the psychos should all be at 100. Shattered Ego ends, and we go. Right, so we start here immediately, right here. I place my second totem down for our second psychos. And this second psychos will hold psychos and the psychophages in place. Here with this, I get a sack as an extra measure, and I use Psychic Shell. Psychic Shell absorbs the initial hits, and sack eats the last few smacks. This is just clearing up, nothing really here. So this is one, this tentacle right before second psychos is one that has to die very quickly. Whichever tank is doing this second psychos has to have their basher tentacle die very quickly. Because right here I have no defensives, right? I have Zen Meditation, which I do end up using, I think, and I have my belt. I save Fort Brew for down in the psychos phase halfway through, so I don't want to use my Fort Brew here. And you don't want to have the Void Lash going off too much, or you'll go in very, very low on either brews or very low on health. And your early prog, you may be very, very low raid wise. So you want to alleviate the damage on the tank as much as possible. So here we go. I have a slight absorb. I use my trinket here, and it dies. I don't have to Zen Med. Zen Med itself is a very weird cooldown that I couldn't really find a constant use for. So I just used it here and anywhere else afterwards that I could find. Immediately on here, this is a big thing. Psychophages start spawning with the tentacle kills, right? And our healer down here is a Holy Pally, who's just meleeing random tentacles to keep the rate up and not be hit by psychophages or the anguish on the ground. And in doing so, he gains a lot of the threat from these psychophages that spawn on this side. So immediately, to help with that, as soon as I take gate, I stay a bit, I keg smash, breath of fire, grab psychus, and these will be picked up naturally. As an extra measure, I drop totem on the right, and we go. And you can see our tentacle pathing very clearly here. So we just go. Here's where I fort brew, because we have the Ajara Decree constantly ticking. I'm going to use Psychic Shell soon after this. And I believe here I mass taunt the psychophages, yeah, because the totem is dying and I don't want them to go on our casters, who are just going to start combust, I believe, sometime between that tentacle and this tentacle. Yeah, the rune's down up here. So here we go. Psychophages are dying, that's fine. And we went for 7. 7 should be fine here, and you should be able to burn boss. I believe our first Psychus phase goes for 8. Go, and we're out. Right? You got to be careful here with these, what is it, the Viscera, the corrupted Viscera. A lot of the time you'll have people dying just like the instant they come out during your prog. It's just a very unfortunate thing that can happen, but you know, one person clicks a little early, one person clicks a little late, the Viscera spawns here, and the instant you phase out, you're hit. Nothing you can really do about it, but just be aware that's a thing. So here they finish off their basher here. They start making their way over towards Moon, Moon being the entrance of the room. Here I'm walking over to the psychophages to get their cast started so that they slowly just die from ignite ticks and cleave. Keep them away from the raid. And here's my neck. We group up. This is my neck and one other heel neck, I believe. Yep. And so here is where the Brewmaster Ox Totem matters again. Drop Totem, AoE Taunt to sync them up, and they're synced. We do Bubble, Darkness, and we do one neck following the thought. So this is a very big thing. With these harvesters, I hold them as the Brewmaster for as long as possible. And the way you do this is during their initial cast and everything, they're never really going to be meleeing you. So you can get 2 blackout strikes in, maybe 3, and you build up your dodge. You just have to make sure that you save a blackout strike for right when they're going to mind rack. So when the mind rack hits, you 100% dodge. So here we move back for our first anguish. Again with the blackout strike right before the mind rack, but one hits. I believe one mind rack hit a little earlier than the other, consumed the dodge, but that's alright. Here again, blackout strike, dodge them both. So these should be dying before their second cast right there. That timing is fine. And then here, I myself, once you get to a good progression, getting to this phase consistently with your damage, my damage wasn't really relevant at this point anymore. So I did everything I could to keep the rest of the raid alive. Here I tried to click our healer and crucible her, but I misclick and it hits Nazoth, I believe. But otherwise I stop here, I vivify a few times, and then I save my next crucible as well for a heal on the raid. So here we're getting pulled away, so I drop the Transcend because my DK friend here is going to be very slow. So as soon as the grip ends, Tiger's Lust him, Transcend, roll, and we're good. We get into position. This is going to be, boom, Crucible heal. This is going to be Ox Totem Taunt. This is first immunes. On our first immunes, I believe we had all 3 mages and 2 pallies. So, very quickly, you want to have the mages immune the very first one. Just in case you're very quick, if you don't have enough immunities. Immuning the very first one allows for their ice block to be up for, I believe, the very last one before the 8th Anguish. On the very last soak, you may have issues with their ice blocks not being up. If they soak the very first one, this should alleviate that. And if you have the immunities for it all, then it's not an issue. Again, dodging the Mind Rack as often as possible. Now this glare is a very, very big issue. This is where we were stuck on for a very long time. Just getting feared, getting killed with the Anguish. But as a tank, if you're having these Thought Harvesters, you're going to want to, if you have to, if the eye comes like right on top of you and it's going to move out in time, but you're on the right side, just stand on top of your tank and cleave. The tanks themselves should never really die to this type of damage. So just stand on top of them. I use my Psychic Shell just to absorb a bit of damage. But it shouldn't kill you. So here's another Totem Taunt. And then this is Soak 2. We just have, I believe, like Demon Hunters, Rogue Soak, something like that. Other immunities. And then here you're going to want to just be careful with these. This Paranoia is difficult, but not too much of an issue as long as you get far enough right to where the beam doesn't throw you into the Anguish. These Thought Harvesters you want to have dying at any point before their second cast. You would ideally want to have them casting their second cast so that you can maximize damage on the boss. But ours just died very quickly. It's not a huge issue. And then at this point, this gateway's coming up. And there's no Thought Harvesters. So you just drill into the boss. We come as a raid, we stack in melee, and we're gonna we're gonna use 2 hearts just before we take our gateway back. So you see we have Event Horizon 15 seconds. We leave at 5 seconds. So we just burn. We go 5 seconds, we go. As a tank, you can leave a little early, especially if you're the Brewmaster. Your damage isn't too much. Just get here early so that this Annihilator never gets a potential melee on anyone. And also on this first taunt, you see here I moved him slightly left, just to make it slightly easier to click this bomb. Sometimes, you might have a bit of an issue clicking. Whoever has that assignment might have a bit of an issue clicking between the boss and the bomb itself. Just dodge. Not an issue. This is a raid. Everyone should be able to do this. Okay, so Event Horizon. I honestly don't know how this mechanic works exactly. I've had it a few times where I get it and it drops after like 6 seconds, like the I assume like the DPS versions that get it, right? Theirs drops pretty quickly. And then I've had it where it lasts the full duration. I believe here it lasts the full duration. So like I said, I'm not really sure exactly how this mechanic works. It a pretty easy mechanic, just get out. So I'm just in and out, in and out. But it's no big deal. Here it drops, just go in, you swap when the other tank gets it. Here, my off tank gets it, just taunt, he moves out, not a big issue. So you want to go through 4 of these defusings of the bombs with your hearts. Your raid lead should probably know this already. You should probably know this already. Everyone will have their they'll all have their assignments and everything. And you want to kill the boss before he spawns the 5th set that spawns the whole circle of bombs. We killed it a bit quickly, but that's fine. So here, as you're running back into the boss, once you kill him, you can auto run. If you have an auto run key, you can auto run as you click the gate, and you'll see as we're walking back, when it phases me back, we're already running. And this helps spawn the Thought Harvesters closer, but my off tank was a little slow. Not a big deal. I'm able to get the totem taunt, and this is a raid soak here. At least for us. You may have the immunities, I'm not sure. I believe this is a raid soak for most kills though. So here, Evoke Anguish is to the left. Beams are gonna push us right. And then here, you're gonna want to stack in melee to get the link really quickly with the Evoke Anguish. Everyone moves back. I give my Warlock friend a Tiger's Lust because he's slow. Boom. And then Paranoia, spread. Rate is very low. I start to heal here. I throw out a Crucible, and I start to Vivify a few people. But I can't get too much out because we have to move to the back. So I get stopped here. That's not a big issue. This is a very common thing that happens with monks. It can happen with a few other classes, but it very often happens with monks. And so here we have the final soak, I believe. Yeah. So this is the final soak that you need to have your fire mages ice blocked ready for. Or whichever immunities are going to be used for this. Should be the very first immunities. That come out right after the 3rd Anguish on the first Thought Harvester soaks. So those are the final soaks. We get Anguish here. Everyone moves back. Now here you want to be careful with this Anguish because you get these beams. So you just want to make sure you're not going to be fully thrown into the Anguish with the beam and that you're not going to get feared. You see we have here a few that stood on the right. It's not a big issue. But you just need to keep a bit of melee clear to be able to hit the boss during the final enrage of the sanity. So these don't have to be all the way back, just enough space to stand in melee and be able to wail at the boss. Here I do die. I turn my back here and they hit me. But my off-tank friend here has him and he's fine. I get the res. And you see now he's got all 4 and here's where we go insane. Not a big deal. So here he's taking as many. I'm calling out for him to just take it until he dies so that I can stay alive. I immediately taunt though because I'm scared of him getting feared. But I believe he AMS'd. So I just immediately taunt and run. And at this point the whole raid is just burning into the boss. The boss is 7.5 and he dies in a few seconds here. But here these thought harvesters are gonna hurt very, very bad. You're gonna want to use everything to survive. I have my dampen come up. I still have my health stone. I have health pot. I have a full stack expel harm. But you'll see here just how quickly my health starts spiking. Look at that. Immediately, 10% stagger. Everything hits me. I have 2 sides of the mind rack, but boss is dead. And here I was dead as soon as. If that had lasted any longer, I was dead, but my off tank was still alive. No big deal. And that's basically it. And get some Azurite. So that's basically how I did my fight. If there's any questions in particular, you can ask and I can try to explain it to you in the comments. But it's not a super difficult fight. It's just a lot of repetition, memorizing the route. Just be very careful. Third Anguish, first Harvester, Soak into Paranoia, into fourth Anguish is very deadly. It'll probably be one of your biggest walls. And if you're Brewmaster tanking, which I assume you are, make sure you're dodging those mind racks. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. See you later.